Around 60 French fishing boats have taken part in a protest outside Jersey's largest port in a dispute over access to the island's waters. 2 Royal Navy vessels were sent to deal with a possible blockade of St Helier, and France responded by dispatching 2 patrol vessels of its own. Under the Brexit trade agreement, only French crews with a history of fishing in the area qualify for a licence. So far, 41 permits under this new system have been granted. But the French say that these licences include restrictions and conditions that have not been mutually agreed. Well, our correspondent Robert Hall reports now from St Helier.
They had left their home ports before dawn, not to fish, but to carry a message to their island neighbours. Many of these vessels have fished here for generations, but Brexit ended the old agreements. They've been replaced with a new licensing system. The French claim the scheme, which came into effect last weekend, was rushed and over-restrictive, putting their livelihoods at risk. This fisherman told me they had no alternative but to reject Jersey's move.
If the arrangement doesn't go back to normal, we're not going to be able to survive. 50%, even more, 80% of French boats will disappear.
The French have said they needed to do something. They made that resolution at the weekend. Here they are. There are boats around me here from fishing villages and towns all around Normandy and further afield as well. They have said that they are going to sit out there in the channel leading to St Helier and await discussions.
Beyond the fleet, shrouded in low cloud, visible reassurance from the UK. One of 2 Royal Navy patrol ships underlining support for Jersey's stance. And, hidden from view on the edge of Jersey's waters, a French vessel monitored the standoff. 5 hours after they arrived, leaders of the French delegation did get the meeting they'd asked for. Jersey's ministers had been negotiating via Westminster and Brussels. Now they were able to hear grievances face to face.
The information that had been provided somehow had got lost in translation, and what they actually did every day was not transmitted into the bureaucratic process and the information provided. We've got to get to the bottom of that and correct those licences if it's appropriate.
Among the fleet waiting for news at sea, a number of Jersey boats. There are those on the island who have long-standing friendships in Normandy. The licensing row has meant that Jersey's fishermen can no longer land their catches in France. They too want the issue resolved. But others are clear that Jersey's government should not be intimidated by protest or threats.
Jersey needs to stand firm. We need to manage our fish stocks, there's no question about that. We need to manage the resource out there, and Jersey has done nothing wrong.
This evening, French fishermen are back in port and the Royal Navy has been ordered home. The protest had made its point to sympathetic ears, but this row between neighbours is not yet over. Robert Hall, BBC News, Jersey.
Well, let's get the perspective then from across the channel, and let's go to the port of Carteret. And our correspondent there is Jean Mackenzie. Jean, tell us what's going on.
Well, the fishermen arrived back here in port earlier this evening, and they arrived back drenched, exhausted after a 15-hour standoff, but they were in a surprisingly good mood. Now, the talks with the Jersey government, they said, went badly. They said they didn't feel they made any progress at all, but they felt their protest was a success. They got themselves noticed, and really, this was the point. The last few days have been all about drama. We've had talk of a blockade. We've had the French threatening to cut off electricity supplies to Jersey because there is an awful lot at stake here for these fishermen. Many of them rely on being able to access Jersey's waters. Some of them we spoke to catch more than 50% of their stock along Jersey's shores. So the idea they might not be able to fish there, or they'd only be able to fish there for a limited number of days, or they might not get their permits, is unthinkable. Now the drama has died down. It is really on the EU and it's on the French government to take their fight forward and resolve this.
Jean, once again, many thanks. Jean Mackenzie there, correspondent in Normandy with the latest.